Macmillan Audio presents The Inquisitor by Mark Allen Smith. Read by Ari Fliakos. Prologue. The client sat in an 8-foot square room staring at a large one-way mirror that offered a view into flat, smooth darkness. An audio track of a nervous laugh continually interrupted by a dry cough came through the speakers in the walls. But he couldn't hear it because he had put in the earplugs that had been left out for him. He glanced at his watch. 11:20 p.m. He'd been here 3 hours and was nursing a second scotch. The windowless room was old wood with a soft gray finish and expensively appointed. The chair was an Arne Jacobson, the rug an antique Persian. The chrome bar was stocked with expensive liquor, a Pinot Noir and a Sancerre in a dewy bucket. 4 conical brushed nickel pendants hung from the ceiling, and the etchings in the crystal Scotch glasses caught their light and held it captive in brilliant star-shaped designs. On the bar's lower shelf, a DVD recorder's face blinked with a tiny red eye. The client was the head of security for a major U.S. electronics manufacturer. He didn't make the kind of money that allowed him familiarity with these luxuries, but the people he worked for did, and they were waiting for his call. It had taken a week of research and networking to arrange a meeting in a restaurant in Little Italy with an impeccably attired, exquisitely groomed mob boss named Carmine Della Notte, who questioned him over a bottle of Barolo and 2 double espressos before finally giving him the internet code and Geiger's name, though it was understood that the name wasn't real. The code had gotten him into Geiger's website, doyoumrjones.com, and using Della Notte as a referral had moved things along quickly. Earlier tonight, the client had snatched his target, Matthew Gant, one of his company's R&D guys, from a garage and, following instructions, brought him to this bland 2-story building on Ludlow Street. When the client and Geiger had finally met, in this room, the first thing he'd noticed was that Geiger hardly ever blinked. The client prided himself on his cool, but Geiger had put him on edge. The silky, even tone of his voice and his physical stillness added to his affect. He had elliptical gray eyes and a sharp, angular face. His body looked lean and hard, perhaps because he was a runner or a practitioner of some form of martial arts. And he had a slight tilt to his posture, as if his skeleton accommodated gravity in a unique way. There was something truly strange about him, but then, what could you expect from someone in Geiger's line of work? The client had heard all kinds of stories. Geiger was a head case who'd done hard time. Geiger was a rogue from the NSA. Geiger was a twisted scion who didn't need the money and did it for the rush. The only common thread was that he had no equal. When they had shaken hands, the client had said, "They say you're the best, and we hope it's true. The specs we think Matthew stole are worth millions." Geiger had stared back at him, expressionless. "I don't deal in hope here," he'd said, and left. For the first hour, the room on the other side of the glass had been black. The only sounds were Matthew's outbursts, full of bravado and indignation. Then Geiger's hushed utterance reached the client through the speakers like a wraith come calling. "Stop talking, Matthew. You are not allowed to speak any longer." It was the loudest whisper the client had ever heard. Then the lights came on, and through the one-way mirror the client saw Geiger leaning against the wall in a stark room, dressed in a black pullover and loose-fitting black slacks. The room was completely covered with white linoleum, and dozens of 3-inch-wide recessed lights in the walls and ceiling made every surface glare. On the north and south walls, mounted a foot below the ceiling line, were several small video cameras. After a while, the view started to play tricks with the client's vision, the room's angles gradually disappearing until Geiger seemed to be
Sample complete. Ready to continue?